I need a break, Calder. You, me, Wally, we founded this team. Without him...
I understand.
It's time.
Time? Time for what?
Recognize Green Arrow 0.
Robin,
8.
Tim, where are you going?
B28. Arrowette B27. Robin B.
Join us, Jeff. I think we want the same things.
The same things? Really? Batman, I just resigned from the Justice League, and at least their leaders were elected democratically. I want nothing to do with Batman Incorporated. The truth is, I don't trust you. Especially after what you pulled in there today.
What? What did he pull?
I'm sorry, Virgil. Maybe you can find a new mentor. One who's less damaged.
Will someone please tell me what's going on?
Black Lightning 2, 3.
All right. Hey, Brucey, I'm up. I'm up. All right, I'm coming.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie, so we gotta talk about Wally West, the first couple of episodes of Young Justice, why he's coming back, and some of the big WTF moments from those first three. Most of you probably noticed they dropped the first 3 episodes back to back. It'll be like that every single week. We're still doing a giveaway for that DC streaming service. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite Young Justice moment on the video. I'll name a new winner at the end of this. But the big things first, Wally West, even though he's still technically dead, they don't know what happened to him. They think that he's dead. They've memorialized him as of the season 2 finale with that special statue that Bart is looking at in his new, very Wally West looking costume. It's like an amalgam of Bart's previous costume with the face covering over his eyes like the special visor and the yellow from Wally West's costume. So he's the new Kid Flash for all intents and purposes. So the big thing about Wally West in the episode is that even though everyone still believes that he's dead and Nightwing is using it as his excuse to take a break, quote unquote, from the team, that within the 2-year time jump you find out exactly why he did that. This sort of builds into the idea of the Outsiders moniker that they're giving this season of Young Justice. Young Justice, Outsiders, because it's outside the Justice League. So everybody's fractured. You get a couple nods to McGann leading the Young Justice team. She's officially head of the team now. Like you see their Gamma team in the background with Bart in the Wally West looking costume. It's a bit of the reason why they're being very light with their Wally West Easter eggs in the first couple of episodes. There's so many new characters, so many new story arcs, so many other things they have to introduce that everybody's going to get their day in the sun. So they just can't do everything in the first episode. Then you see another Wally West reference when Nightwing goes to recruit Artemis, who's living with Roy's clone, and his daughter with Cheshire, who's apparently raising her. If you were confused about what's going on here, this is not them as a couple. Like, Artemis is not with Roy's clone, because there are a lot of couples on the TV show. Like, they kind of let you know what people's relationships were, especially with McGann and Superboy and their big moment. But she's just living there, obviously still dealing with the trauma of losing Wally. She keeps looking at his picture. They linger on it for a while. She's woken up by Bruce Lee, the dog that she got with Wally West, who then has a really long scene at the end of the episode as the credits play. That really somber, lullaby-sounding song that kind of makes you want to cry because you're looking at the little Wally West figure that Bruce Lee is cradling underneath the table there. That's just a different version of the theme song from the beginning of the episode. This is what their theme song sounds like now. It's a little more hair-raising, a little more anxiety-inducing, like things are getting so much crazier, and they kind of reflect that in some of the big moments during these episodes. Like, it's a little more gruesome because it's not on Cartoon Network anymore, so that's why my WTF moments are way crazier than you would ever see on network television, especially in a cartoon that you would think is aimed for children, but this is meant to be a little more adult. So before we talk about that though, why Wally West is coming back, like very clearly they're setting this up for some big payoff where he eventually does come back, but it's so early in the new episodes and they've just started explaining what everybody is doing. We haven't even gotten that many scenes with Bart Allen in his new sort of Kid Flash costume. So that's why I'm not expecting to see a whole lot more Wally West focused scenes, at least till the second half of the season. Like the first half of the season is all about metahuman trafficking. So first things first, they learn about this mystery in the first couple of episodes. You meet a couple of the new characters like Geoforce, Breon Markov, and Halo, like probably one of the craziest new characters. Not dead, not dead. We'll talk about her in a second, but by the time they start dealing with more Flash focused things, the idea of the Speed Force. I mean, the Speed Force technically doesn't exist in the Young Justice universe as the creators explained it a couple years ago, but I think that's just laying the groundwork for them to discover what the Speed Force is to the same way they did in the comics. So if you're not a big Flash comic book reader, what happened is when the Flash debuted for the first time, it was originally Jay Garrick, then during the Silver Age it was Barry Allen, then during the Modern Age it became Wally West, the main version of the Flash. What happened is that during the Golden Age and the Silver Age, the Flash just ran really fast. Nobody understood why, or like why his body didn't fly apart. Everything we know about the Speed Force was developed during the 80s, the 90s, the modern age of the Wally West Mark Waid comics, so he's the person that introduced the concept of the Speed Force. Before that, what they said is that the older speedsters like Jay Garrick, Max Mercury, they tapped into something called the speed field. Eventually, Wally West becomes the fastest version of the Flash because that's more exciting. Like, you have a brand new Flash, you want him to be the most badass version ever. Like, every time you introduce somebody new, he has to be a little bit better than the guy before. So the logic for explaining why Wally West was the fastest version of the Flash ever was because he had the most direct connection to this thing that they called the Speed Force, the true source of their power, whereas like the older Flashes, Jay Garrick, Max Mercury, had previously only sort of bumped up against the idea of the Speed Force. Wally West had a very spiritual, direct connection to that, so he could fully tap into that force, and that became the Speed Force. So thenceforth, all Flashes gained their power from that place. So what happened is that later, because Barry Allen had died during Crisis on Infinite Earths, they learned that both he and speedsters, pretty much any speedster that died, because of the way the Speed Force changed their bodies, when they would die, they would turn into pure energy and their bodies would return to the Speed Force. So that's how people like Eobard Thawne, Reverse Flash, kept coming back even though he seemingly died, and how Barry Allen came back because he had been trapped in the Speed Force ever since he had seemingly died during Crisis. That's why I think the Young Justice is doing their own version of that, albeit with Wally West coming back from the Speed Force and using that as a way to learn more about the Speed Force inside this particular animated universe. So because that is a really big arc and a really big concept and a really big payoff for Artemis's character, like she's probably going to be really sad about this for most of this part of the season, maybe the second part of the season too. They got to deal with the metahuman trafficking, they got to deal with Darkseid, the light, all this other stuff. There's just so much going on that I think that they're going to save this for much, much later. But what they'll do is they'll probably just start teasing it. Like, we haven't even gotten scenes with Bart Allen using his powers yet. But let me know in the comments, do you actually think that they're doing the same thing with Wally that they did with Barry Allen in like Flash Rebirth and learning about the Speed Force in this universe? My really big WTF moments from the episodes, just starting with number 5. There were a lot, but I just did my top 5. So Black Lightning killing the little girl who turned out to be Plasmus. That just broke him. Obviously, he wanted to quit the Justice League. Then number 4, half of the Justice League winds up quitting, including Batman. So this is all built into those Easter eggs, like Batman and the Outsiders, Young Justice Outsiders. Batman quit the Justice League in the comics a long time ago, and they spun off a title called Batman and the Outsiders. So a lot of the new characters that you see are actually from that comic book, like Metamorpho and Katana. When Black Lightning says Batman Incorporated, he's actually talking about an actual Grant Morrison comic book. The plot was very different from what happened in this episode. It was just Bruce Wayne revealing that he was the person behind Batman's tech, not revealing that he was Batman, just that he made all of his toys. 3, The Many Deaths of Halo. So she was a fun new character. We haven't seen a whole lot of her. We'll get a lot more of her in episodes 4, 5, and 6 next week when they drop the next batch of episodes. But I love the way that she died several times in the episode, and it would always be like, not dead. You'd see like half of her face had gotten burned off, and then she just sit up like, oh, I'm good, everybody fine. When the second plasmist, the little boy, holds his hand over her face, remember this is superheated plasma, and just burns her to death, and then she sits right back up again. No worries, I'm fine, there's still life in me. Number 2, the gruesome death of Geoforce and his twin brother's parents. If this were Cartoon Network, you would just see that happening off screen, and they would see like a foot hanging onto frame, like they wouldn't show you all this blood. The number 1 is probably just the idea of what they're doing with that children's hospital, like the metahuman gene activation process, just wheeling little kids in and basically drowning them to death to activate their powers. So let me know in the comments, what was your favorite hardcore moment during the episode? And keep in mind, this is just the beginning, like they're just trying to give you an idea for what the new episodes are going to feel like. Obviously, it's going to get way crazier towards the back half of the season. If there's any special videos that you guys want me to make or big questions, leave them in the comments below. Congratulations, American Paisa, you're the giveaway winner from my last big DC video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your details. Click here to rewatch the opening scene from Young Justice Season 3, Episode 1, and click here to learn all about Avengers Endgame and Kevin Feige's plans for X-Men and Namor. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.